Hello and welcome back to the Lounge with Annette. Okay, I have another book that I found that might be interesting. The reviews on Goodreads were good. Majority of them were good versus not so good. And it is this book here by Mary Higgins Clark, Kiss the Girls and Make Them Cry. Okay, we have 110 chapters in this book. It is 384 pages and it was copyrighted in 2019. I am only going to read chapter 1 because I have some other books that I read the reviews for on Goodreads that was okay. That's in my stash as well. And I'm also going to read chapter 1 of those books in another video, not this video. Okay. Prologue. October the 12th. Gina Kane stretched in her window seat. Her latest prayer had been answered. The door of the jumbo jet was closing and the flight attendants were preparing for takeoff. The middle of the 3 seats on her side was empty and would remain that way for the 16-hour direct flight from Hong Kong to JFK in New York City. Her second piece of luck was the passenger on the other side of the empty seat. Immediately after buckling himself in, he had taken 2 Ambiens. His eyes were already closed and would remain that way for the next 8 hours. That was perfect. She wanted time to think, not make small talk. It was a trip her parents had spent over a year planning, and they were so excited when they called her to say they had sent in the deposit and were committed to going. She remembered her mother saying, as they often did, "We want to do this before we get too old." The notion of either of them getting old had seemed so foreign. Both were outdoors enthusiasts, always hiking, walking, and biking. But her mother's annual physical, her doctor had spotted abnormality. It was shocking and an operable cancerous tumor. She went from being the picture of health to gone in 4 months. It was after the funeral that Dad brought up the trip. "I'm going to cancel. When I see the other couples from the hiking club together, it will be too depressing to do it alone." Gina had made her decision on the spot. "Dad, you're going, and you're not going to be there alone. I'm going with you." They had spent 10 days hiking through small villages in mountainous Nepal. After flying with her to Hong Kong, he had taken the direct flight to Miami. It had been so easy to see and choose the right thing to do. Her father had thoroughly enjoyed the trip. She had as well. She had never once second-guessed her decisions to go. But where was that ability to decide and plow forward when it came to Ted? He was such a good guy. Both of them were 32. He was absolutely certain that she was the person he wanted to spend his life with. Although disappointed that they would be apart for so long, he had encouraged her to accompany her father. Family should always come first. It was a line he had said to her many times as they went to gatherings with his bewildering array of relatives. All that time to think, and she was no closer to knowing what to say to Ted. He had a right to know where they were going. Excuse me, hold on. How many times can I say? I just need a little more time. As usual, her reflection ended in stalemate. Longing for any distraction, she opened her iPad and entered the password for her email. The screen immediately filled with new messages, 94 in total. She typed several keystrokes to make the screen display the emails by the name of the sender. There was no response from C. Ryan. Surprised and disappointed, she hit new, typed in C. Ryan's address, and began writing. "Hi, C. I hope you received the email I sent 10 days ago. I'm very interested in hearing about your terrible experience. Please be in touch at your earliest convenience. Best regard, Gina. Before pressing send, she added her phone number after her name. The only other email she opened was from Ted. She was sure it would say that he had made a plan for them to meet for dinner and talk. It was with a mixture of relief and disappointment that she read his note. Hi, Gina. I've been counting the days until I get to see you. I'm sorry to say I'm going to have to keep counting. I leave tonight for a special project the bank put me on. We'll be in LA for at least a week. I can't tell you how disappointed I am. I promise to make it up to you when I get back. Call you tomorrow. All my love now, Ted. A voice came over the PA announcing they had been cleared for takeoff and ordering that all electronic devices be powered down. She closed her iPad, yawned, and popped her pillow between her head and the side of the cabin. The email from 10 days earlier, the one that would put her life in danger, remained on her mind as she slowly dozed off. Did they mention that? Part 1. Chapter 1. Gina's apartment was on 82nd Street and Weston Avenue. Her mother and father had given it to her after they retired and moved to Florida. Spacious with 2 bedrooms and a decent-sized kitchen. It was the envy of her friends, many of whom were crammed into tiny 1-bedrooms and studios. After dropping her bags in her bedroom, she checked her watch, 11:30 p.m. in New York, 8:30 p.m. in California. She decided it would be a good time to call Ted. He answered on the first ring. Well, hello, stranger. His tone was deep and loving, giving Gina a rush of warmth. I can't tell you how much I've missed you. I've missed you too. It's killing me that I'm stuck in LA for a week. They chatted for a few minutes. He finished by saying, I know you just got in and you're probably exhausted. I have a bunch of meetings planned. I'll call you when things calm down. It's a deal, she said. Love you. Love you too. As she hung up the phone, Gina realized that Ted's unexpected trip to California was a mixed blessing. On the one hand, she wanted to see him. On the other, it was a relief to not have to have a conversation she was not ready for. Stepping out of the shower at 5:30 in the morning, Gina was pleasantly surprised at how she felt so good. She had slept for almost 8 hours on the plane and another 4 after arriving home. She wasn't feeling any of the dreaded jet lag most people experience after a long west to east flight. She was eager to get back to work. After graduating from Boston College with a major in journalism, she had been thrilled to land a job as a desk assistant at a suburban newspaper on Long Island. Budget cutbacks had forced the paper to let many of their senior writers go. Within a year, she was writing feature stories. Her articles on business and finance caught the eye of the editor of Your Money. She happily made the switch to the brash new upstart and had loved every minute of her 7 years there. But the declining interest in print publication and slowing advertising revenue had taken their toll. In the 3 years since Your Money had folded, she had been a freelancer. While part of her enjoyed the freedom to pursue the stories that interest her, another part missed the steady paycheck and health care that came along with being an employee. She was free to choose what she wanted to write about, but at the end of the day, somebody had to buy her story. Empire Review had been a lifesaver. While visiting her parents in Florida, friends of theirs told Gina about being horrified that their 18-year-old grandson had been branded during a hazing ritual at his college fraternity. Using a high iron, Greek letters had been burned into the back of his upper thigh. Complaints to the university administrator were going unanswered. Big donors among the alumni had threatened to withhold contribution if there was a clampdown on the Greek life community. Empire Review had agreed to the story immediately. They gave her a hefty advance and a generous travel and expense budget. ER's exposed cause and a sensation. It was covered by the national evening news program and even prompted a segment on 60 Minutes. The success of the fraternity story had given her high visibility as an investigative journalist. She was inundated with tips, emails from would-be whistleblowers and people who claimed to have knowledge of major scandals. A few of them had resulted in stories she had pursued and published. The trick was distinguishing between providers of genuine leads versus crackpots, disgruntled former employees, and conspiracy theorists. Gina glanced at her watch. She was scheduled to meet with the magazine editor-in-chief the next day. Charles Maynard typically began the conversation with, "So, Gina, what do we want to write about next?" She had a little over 20 hours to come up with a good answer. She dressed quickly, choosing jeans and a warm turtleneck sweater. After touching up her makeup, she glanced at her full-length mirror. She looked like the early pictures of her mother, who had been homecoming queen at Michigan State. Wide-set eyes, more green than hazel, and classic features. Auburn shoulder-length hair made her look even taller than her 5'7" frame. Satisfied with her appearance, she put a frozen bagel in the toaster and made a cup of coffee. When it was ready, she brought her plate and cup to the table by the living room window. She had a view of the morning sun that was barely peeking over the horizon. It was the time of day when she nearly felt the death of her mother and experienced the feeling of time rushing by too quickly. Settling at the table, her favorite place to work, she opened her laptop and watched a wave of unread emails unfold on her screen. Her first glance was at the new emails that had arrived since she had checked while on the plane. Nothing urgent. More importantly, nothing from C. Ryan. Next, she scanned through the ones that had arrived over the last week and a half when she had been in one of the few remaining places on Earth where Wi-Fi services was available. A note from a woman in Atlanta who claimed she had proof that the recycling rubber being used in school playgrounds were making children sick. A request to speak the following month at the ASJA, American Society of Journalists and Authors. An email from a man who claimed he had in his possession the portion of President Kennedy's skull that had gone missing after the autopsy. Even though she probably could have recited its content, she went back and clicked on the email she had received the day she left on her vacation. "Hi, Gina. I don't believe we ever met when we were at Boston College. I finished a few years apart from you. Right after I graduated, I went to work at REL News. I had a terrible experience with one of the higher-ups, and I wasn't the only one. Now, they're afraid I'll talk about it. I've been approached about a settlement offer. I don't want to put more in an email. Can we arrange to meet?" When she had seen the name C.R. Ryan on an email, she had tried to remember why the name was familiar. There had been a Courtney Ryan at school. Gina reread the email twice, pushing herself to see if there was anything she had missed. REL News was a Wall Street darling among media companies. Its headquarters were at 55th Street and Avenue of Americas, or 6th Ave as most New Yorkers still call it. In a span of 20 years, it had grown from a small group of cable TV stations to a national powerhouse. Its ratings had surpassed CNN and were growing ever closer to the market leader, Fox. Its unofficial motto was real news, not the other kind. The first subject that had come to her mind was sexual harassment. Hold on, she had thought. You don't even know if CR is a man or a woman. You're a reporter. Don't get ahead of yourself. Get the facts. There had been only one way to find out. She looked again at the response she had sent. "Hi, Mr. or Mrs. Ryan. I'm very interested in talking to you about the terrible experience you referred to. I'll be out of the country without access to email, but I'll be back on October 13th. As you probably know, I live and work in New York City. Where are you? Looking forward to hearing from you. Best, Gina. She had difficulty focusing as she scrolled through other emails. I had really hoped to have more than this, she said to herself as her mind drifted to tomorrow's meeting at the magazine. Maybe she left a message, Gina thought optimistically. Her cell phone had been down to 1 bar when she boarded her flight. It was dead by the time she landed in New York. In the email, she gave C. Ryan her number. Gina walked quickly into her bedroom, removed her phone from the charger, and brought it back to the kitchen. She tapped the phone to wake it up. A quick glance revealed several messages, but none from unfamiliar numbers. The first was from her best friend, Lisa. Hi, girlfriend. Welcome back. Looking forward to hearing all about your trip. I hope we're still on for dinner tonight. We have to go to a dive restaurant in the village called the Bird's Nest. I have a great news case, a slip and fall. My client fell on ice cubes dropped by the bartender when he was shaking martinis, broke her leg in 3 places. I want to scope out that joint. Gina chuckled as she listened. Dinner with Lisa was always fun. The other messages were solicitations, which she immediately deleted. Okay, so that's the end of chapter 1. Did we get anything from chapter 1? Do I need to read chapter 2, chapter 3 to fill it? Or is this in the running? Y'all let me know. Stay tuned for the 3rd book that I have in mind. Bye for now.